All right. It is right at the top of the hour, 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a few more people that have joined us here. This is our number one registered webinar. We have over 230 people that are registered for this particular webinar. And so every week as we've been doing these webinars, they've been growing and growing. And so with this new platform, you probably noticed that as you registered, you had the option to be able to auto register yourself for the future webinars, which will be very convenient for you, for those of you who are joining us every single week to be able to listen in on some of the content that we're providing. So thank you guys all for joining us. Hopefully you will be enjoying this new platform. And then I haven't done an audio check yet, so go ahead and type into the chat box, yes, 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 yes. That way I know that you can hear me okay, and then my mic's coming in all loud and clear. I can see myself, I can see the presentation, but I can't see when there is if I can hear I can't hear myself, if you will. So good. Glad everybody can hear me there. Thank you guys so much for participating. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to talk to you guys about first before we get started is, number one, our podcast that we just launched about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We have 4 episodes out there right now. So if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can download the podcast. Just search for Multifamily Investor Nation, and we will pop up there. I'll have my picture on there. You'll be able to recognize it. It says Multifamily Investor Nation. Download that. The podcast is specifically interviewing people, and specifically multifamily investors who are actually closing deals and who have actually closed a deal. So we walk through a specific deal and talk about how they found the deal. We talk about, where did they actually figure out where their financing was, and were they working with a broker, and what about the due diligence, and how much hard money did they have to put up, and all the way to the point of closing. There's no fluff. We just get in there, start asking questions about the deal, and getting very granular. And I myself have learned a lot, done over a dozen of these so far, and we've already released 4 of those episodes. Looking forward to releasing more. And so make sure you download that podcast when you're working out. You can be listening to it, or when you're driving between work, or you're driving down the road, or wherever you like to relax a little bit. It's a good podcast to be able to continue to learn and to continue to surround yourself with the language of multifamily. That's one thing I always talk about, is the language of multifamily. If you want to get good at any type of language and sound confident in front of brokers and sellers, one of the most important things you can do is surround yourself and indoctrinate yourself in the language of multifamily. And so just like if you wanted to learn Spanish, or if you wanted to learn, I said English, but if you wanted to learn Spanish or French or German or Russian, you'd go and indoctrinate yourself and actually, immerse yourself in that culture. And that's what you have to do in this multifamily space to be able to make sure that you're sounding proficient and sounding confident when you're sitting down with brokers and when you're sitting down with sellers. So make sure you tune into that, Multifamily Investor Nation. You can go to mfinpodcast.com if you don't have an iPhone or Android and you want to just listen to it on your computer or whatever. Please go there and sign up there. And then also, if you're not part of our Facebook group, we do have a closed Facebook group. You can just go to facebook.com/Multifamily Investor Nation, and you'll find our actual page. And then attached to that is the closed Facebook group that we have as well. So let's talk here a little bit about, or not a little, a lot about multifamily deals and how to find these multifamily deals in a hot market. So first off, a little bit of a background about myself. Dan Handford. I'm a key principal and partner of a group called PassiveInvesting.com. And for those of you who haven't followed me for a very long time, we had a company called HandfordCapital.com, and we had one, and then we recently merged with another group called Randazzo Capital. And so we've come together and we formed this new partnership called PassiveInvesting.com. Actually, today we just had a group meeting with the 3 partners, and started to create some more content and videos surrounding and educating passive investors as well. So if you're interested in investing with us, alongside us, you can do that. Just go visit PassiveInvesting.com. There's a simple form there for you to fill out. And that way we can jump on a call with me one-on-one. We can discuss some of your investment goals and see if they're in line with ours. So I'm the owner of 5 specialty medical clinics here in South Carolina. I'm located in Greenville, South Carolina. And then I also have investments in $125 million plus worth of multifamily real estate. and a portfolio consisting of a little over 1,300 doors. The founder of the Multifamily Investor Nation. We just crossed over 7,000 members. So for those of you who are joining us, and you've been with us all along the entire ride, we started this group in September of last year and have just massively grown. And I really appreciate each one of you following us and even participating in the summit that we started for the first time last month in January of 2019. Had a summit called the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit. We had over 60 speakers and several. Our goal was to get over 1,000 attendees. We got a little over 500, so like 560, 580, somewhere around in there, attendees to the event. But we already have another one scheduled for June 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th. And we already have over 200 registered for that one. So if you haven't joined us for that, or you want to get some more information, you can go to mfinsummit.com and check out the summit that's coming up, and get your tickets now at the lowest price. So I'm also the co-host of the podcast called with my wife, the podcast called Tough Decisions for Entrepreneurs. So you can definitely find that on your devices as well. This is a little bit about my family. You can see here on the top right-hand corner is my wife and I sitting in a ball stadium. Right underneath there is my third child, Chloe. She is she's about 2.5 years old now. And then as we go to the left-hand side, you'll see us on this little ride at the Mall of America. And in the far to the right of me, as you're facing me, I have my daughter there, Caroline. She's our eldest. She is 7 years old. And then above that photo, you can see in the middle there, my son, Caleb. He is 6 years old, about to be 7 in about a month and a half or so. And then this is on the top left-hand corner, you can see my wife again, and we're holding our most recent child who just turned a year old, and that is Callie. So we have Callie, we have Kayla, we have Chloe, and we have Caroline there. So I'd like to give you a little bit of an introduction of me and my background. And, we have 4 children. We're doing this thing alongside a lot of you who are trying to raise a family and at the same time. All right, so let's go. So the thing I also wanted to mention to you is is one thing you want to make sure before you start to try to find deals is that you properly pick the market that you're wanting to go into. And so one of the things we did a couple of weeks ago is we did a webinar called Picking a Multifamily Market. And so you can visit our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com and search for Multifamily Investor Nation, and you will find our YouTube channel there. And in the past webinars playlist, you will find one that is called Finding or Picking a Multifamily Market. And we went through very specific details on what are some of the strategies for making sure you pick the right market. So I would highly encourage you to go over there to actually find out what's the best way, what are some things you should be looking for when you're picking your multifamily market. All right, so the first strategy that I want to give you for finding deals is working with brokers, and this might seem like, oh well, of course, but I think a lot of times we get to the point of like thinking that we're going to get the best deal by not working with a broker and trying to go direct with sellers, and we're going to talk about some of that later on today during the presentation. That we might be able to get more people. A better deal by working with sellers, depending on the asset class and markets and various things like that. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but working with brokers is very important because not only do they already have a pulse on the market that you may be entering for the first time, or maybe you've been in for a while, but they have those connections a lot of times with sellers and property managers and various things like that. And they have the incoming flow. Like people that want to sell are going to reach out to a broker and say, hey, give me a BOV, a broker opinion of value, and tell me how much is my property going to be able to trade for in the current market, in the current climate. And so they're going to be reaching out to those people and be able to possibly find you those on-market deals, but also some pocket listings or those off-market deals at the same time. And one of the best ways to do that is whatever market you're entering into or you are in right now, reach out and make a connection with as many of the brokers as you can and get on their distribution email list. Getting on their distribution email list will be very important for you because you will be getting automated emails from them. And in the beginning, they're not going to be very personable with you because they just met you for the first time and they're kind of feeling you out. Is this person serious? Are they just kind of, just jerking my chain a little bit? They're trying to feel you out a little bit. And so That's also one of the reasons why it's important to, learn from webinars like this about how to speak multifamily, because if you start to call up brokers and you're not, talking the language properly, and you're not really very confident in what you're saying, they're going to be able to pick that up pretty well, and they're not really going to give you that much of a time of day. And so brokers are very important. That you definitely want to get on their email lists. They will also, they should be able to give you quite a bit of deal flow. Now, they might not be all the deals. The deal flow might not all be all what you're looking for, or maybe it's overpriced or whatever, but it will give you a good idea. So definitely get a hold of and network with brokers. We have somebody on our team, Brandon, who is working with brokers and speaking to them every single week. Even if they have a deal or not, he's reaching out to them, connecting with them, talking with them, meeting with them, building that relationship, continue to build that rapport. And now what we're finding is that they're now figuring out that these people are hungry for their next deal. These people do have capital to place. These people do and are acting serious. And so we want to start to work with them. So we're starting to find that now, as they're starting to send us some of these off-market deals. Now, some of the off-market deals that they've sent us, they're kind of trash. They're not really worth anything to us. They're kind of outside of our range or our criteria, but it's still nice to know that they're thinking about us that way, and they're sending us some of those off-market deals. So get out there, meet with brokers. It doesn't matter the size of the property. If you're looking at properties that are 50 units or less, then go reach out to some of your residential brokers or your commercial brokers, and kind of letting them know who in this market is the right person who is doing a lot of these multifamily deals. And make sure you tell them what you're looking for. And so it is a legwork game. It is a game of networking and meeting with as many of these brokers as possible. If you're going to 50 to 100 or 100 plus, my group is only in the 100 units or more space, minimum 10 million purchase. And so when you're in that space, you're primarily working with these larger firms like your Cushman and Wakefield and your we have one here in town called Capstone Apartments, Capstone Apartment Partners or something like that. And then you have your CBREs and your Colliers and so many, your Cushman and Wakefields. I might have said that, but you have a lot of different of these large big names that you want to build those relationships with them and actually go to their offices and sit down and have a conversation with you. But make sure that you're prepared to talk the multifamily language and the multifamily lingo before you do that, so that you have a good if you have a good start with these multifamily brokers. The next one here is with property managers. Some of I recently on our podcast interviewed someone who was able to get a deal in a very hot market. It was actually a market in Florida. It'll be coming out pretty soon, the actual episode, but I thought I'd share this with you because this is really a really cool idea that a lot of us don't really think about when it comes to working with property managers to find deals. So property managers, guess what? Not just the property managers that are on site. I'm more talking about like the regional property managers or the property management companies that are there, and they have a pulse on their owners of properties that they're dealing with, and they actually might know of people who are kind of on the verge or getting ready to sell their property. Or you might ask them, do you have any properties that you're managing that have a lot of deferred maintenance, and you've been trying to work with the seller to get them to spend money, but they're just not willing to do that, and you're losing tenants, and that the property's really kind of going downhill? That we might be able to go in there and make a good solid offer and acquire that property. And a lot of times they will do that. With this property that with this person that I interviewed last on the podcast, it was actually 2 days ago. One of the things that he mentioned is that he was looking at another property in a market, and that property management company said, hey, well, if we have something, we'd love to be able to work with you and partner with you. And what that property manager does is they actually will wholesale basically the deal to the next buyer. And so they go in there and negotiate the price before it goes on to market, before it goes with a broker, and they actually negotiate the purchase price and lock it up with an LOI. And then they go and market it over to people who they know are acquiring properties. And then those people who are acquiring properties, they will assign that contract to that LOI to the new buyer, or to the new buyer, and they already have negotiated the price. So there's no going and touring and submitting the offers and going into best and final the third round of the best and final offers or whatever. And so it's a very unique and strategic strategic way is to reach out to some of these property managers and basically just saying, hey, we're in the market. We're looking for to acquire properties. Do you have any owners in your market that you think maybe ready or be getting ready to be able to sell their asset that we might be able to do? And you can even share that with them with the strategy. Well, let's try to lock it up with an LOI first and kind of see what it is. It's no risk for the property management company because, as you know, an LOI, that letter of intent, is not legally binding to you as the buyer. So if you put an LOI on something and you don't execute it to a PSA, you just lose the ability to buy that property. You're not actually putting any money up or anything like that. So these property management companies will go in and negotiate that price with them. And then when they negotiate that price, they can take that LOI and assign it. And they have like 2 to 3 weeks to be able to assign that LOI. And if they don't assign it, then it just goes back to the seller. And then they can go back to the table of working with the broker or possibly trying to sell that asset or just keeping it and holding on to it. So that's a very unique way, a very strategic way. And outside of brokers, I think that's probably the second most hottest way to be able to find properties in hot markets. And so I have really 3, maybe 4 really hot ideas. And I'm going to go through just kind of a couple other ideas after I go through those 3 or 4 ideas to kind of give you some, kind of get your creative juices flowing and get you kind of thinking of some other ways to be able to acquire those. So also working with sellers and owners that are selling. And so this is my third strategy that I would say is pretty cool is you can go look at some of the comps in the area that are selling. And for these large operators that have, 5,000, 10,000 units in their portfolio and they own multiple assets in a market, you can possibly go and look at their sales comps and see, oh, they just recently sold this property over here. I wonder if they'd be willing to sell this property over here. It's one of the things that we're doing right now with an asset that we just acquired, and it's a large company. They have over 5,000 units in the Southeast, and we bought one of their properties, and it was a very smooth transaction. They really enjoyed working with us, and we enjoyed working with them. And so we're now in the process, the talks of being able to acquire some more of their properties that are not even listed right now, but that we can go direct with them and say, hey, let's have a conversation about this property in this area or in that area and see if we can come to a conclusion. So first one is working with brokers. Second one is working with the property managers. And this third one is finding and contacting the sellers, because if they have comps out there, most likely you can look up those comps and find the original offering memorandum and, reaching out to the brokers and see if you can get a contact or a connection with that owner instead of just trying to look at some of the online county websites and various things like that. So the next one here is networking at apartment. And so now we're kind of, those first, 3 are really kind of my top ones. These next several are ones that are just to really get your creative juices flowing and giving you guys some ideas on how to find these. And so as I'm going through some of these, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them into the box there into the chat roll. And then as I finish up towards the end, I'll open it up to some questions, maybe answer as many questions as I can. So let me go ahead and go back to my slide. I have a little different screens here that I got to go through here. Oh, here we go. There we go. Now we're on it. Networking with apartment owners association. So a lot of times we think about networking, we think about just going to meetup groups where there are other real estate investors and, REIA clubs and various things like that. And those can be valuable for finding deals. But one of the other strategic things that you can do is that most markets and most areas have apartment owners associations that you can go and become a part of and participate in and start to network and rub shoulders with other owners of apartments in those markets that you are in. So that's definitely a strategic way that you can actually look at it as well. The next thing here is driving for dollars. So a lot of you might think of this term as like a wholesaling term where there's a wholesaler, they're going out there, they're just driving around trying to find a deal. But that is definitely an opportunity for you that as you are going to look at a property, maybe you drive around the area and see, are there any other properties that might be available that have some deferred maintenance or some opportunity for some value add that you might be able to get into. So you could definitely look at that as well as far as the driving for dollars. But once you drive for dollars, then what's next? you should definitely put into some sort of like campaign of some sort, like a direct mail campaign, or making phone calls to those owners or the on-site property managers, or even some of the third-party property managers that might be taking care of that particular asset. But when it comes to the direct mail, I actually 2 days ago, again, had a different person that I was interviewing for our Multifamily Investor Nation podcast, that what they did was they did a 6-month multi-step mailing sequence with letters and postcards that to a select number of people. And what they did is they took a database of apartment owners and they scrubbed the database from apartments.com, I believe, and with the county database, kind of merged the two to figure out, all right, this is the name of the property, this is the address, city, state, zip, this is how many units they have, this is the last time it was sold, this is the last time it was sold for, owner information, various things like that. And they were looking more for kind of under 100 units, under 50 units, somewhere around in there. And so what they were looking to do is take out any of the assets or any of the properties that did not have, or that actually had a corporation name in it. And so they culled it down, or removed them down and condensed it down from like several thousand to like 200. Okay. And one of the things you can do is try to figure it out on your own on a spreadsheet, or you can even use some virtual assistants via a website called Upwork.com. So if you go to Upwork.com, you can find some virtual assistants and tell them what you're looking for, and be able to find those and be able to find somebody that can help you data mine and do what's called some web scraping to allow you to find some more of these unique deals. And that way you can set up those multi-step sequences. And there are companies out there that will do these multi-step sequences and multi-step mailers. And they were able to find a property and acquire it. That was the deal we spoke about on the podcast. So direct mail is not dead. It's not gone. Obviously, when you're talking about larger numbers of units, over 150, 200 units, it's gonna be a little bit harder to do that, especially if they're locked up with a corporation name and the entities are kind of private and hidden. It'll be kind of hard to break that veil to be able to kind of see who exactly is owning it. One of the other places you can go is what are called auction sites. There's a popular one out there right now called 10X. I think it's just 10X, TENX. Make sure I look this up to maybe tell you right. Yeah, it's actually TEN-X.com. And it's where it's an online auction site. This is not just for multifamily. This is for single family, commercial, multifamily. But there have been a couple of assets that we have seen on there from multifamily that have been good deals that you can lock them up and strategically find them. A lot of times they're ones that might be a little bit distressed. So if you're into the kind of a distressed space, that'd be a good one to kind of go to and check those out. But if you just type in 10X auctions and it's spelled out, so TENX auctions, you'll find the website. It's just TEN-X.com, and you can sign up for their email list and tell them your criteria, what you're looking for, and if a property comes available on there, you will be notified of that particular property. Of course, you can always look at the Courthouse and see if there's any properties that maybe are under foreclosure or haven't paid their taxes, and they have some tax liens on them, or various things like that. So again, these are just some other ways just to kind of give you some more strategies on how to find some of these deals. Those first three are really my top ones that I shared with you. The next one here is obviously with wholesalers. So if you are a wholesaler yourself, this is a good way to reach out to some people who are looking to acquire properties. But if you are looking to acquire properties in the multifamily space, go ahead and make some connections and research some wholesalers in your area. One of the best places to find these wholesalers are meetup groups in your local market, because these wholesalers go to these meetup groups to be able to find people who are looking for specifically some of these deals. So make sure that you go to the meetup groups and you try to ask people who are the top wholesalers in this area and get them looking for properties for you, so you can go and look at some other areas for deals at the same time. And then the last thing here is about Loopnet and Cityfeet, I think is what it's called. I think that's what it's called. Let me double check. Is that what it is? Yeah, I always think that's kind of a funny website for that. But Loopnet and Cityfeet. So it's kind of at the very bottom of my list because, as most of us probably chuckle and laugh about, is, that's where deals go to die. But when you're talking about some of the smaller deals, a lot of times this is the first place some of these assets are listed. Now, obviously, once you get over 100, 150, 200 units, you're not going to find very many deals on Loopnet or Cityfeet. but you might find some deals that are, under 100 units that are on Loopnet or Cityfeet. And you can even set criteria on these different websites where it'll send you an alert when somebody has actually posted a deal that's multifamily, certain number of units, certain number in a certain area, various things like that. So you can immediately get notified so that whenever they get posted, you are alerted to that particular asset. So don't discount LoopNet or Cityfeet. Just go in there, utilize it, set your alerts, and reach out to those people, because even the people that are local that are listing deals for multifamily on those sites, a lot of times they have the connections with other people in the market that might have even more of those types of deals, or at least being able to get in contact with that broker who's listing it, because they might have some other deals, or they might be able to find you some more deals at the same time. So I ran through that pretty quick. If there's any questions, I'll go ahead and take those now. So I'm going to go over to my chat box here and see if there's any questions that have come through here. So it looks like I got a lot of people coming in telling us where they're from. Looking forward to hearing from a couple of you that have some questions. Let's see here. Going through there. Charlotte, how you doing, Joe? Get Kathy in Denver. Got Peter there. How you doing, Peter? Peter Dalal. Garrett and Charlotte there. Let's see. Google still advertises with direct mail to drive advertisements online. That's true. So a lot of people think that direct mail is dead, but it's not. Direct mail is very, very hot right now, especially because of all the data that we can actually derive and really kind of condense lists down to a very strategic number of people that we're sending it to. But Google, the number one online resource for searching and stuff, is still using direct mail, even though that in their direct mail they talk about advertising online. So it's a good point there. Jakari is saying, don't forget about bigger pockets. That's true. You can definitely find some deals on there. You can set yourself some alerts for different markets and stuff like that. I haven't personally found any there, but you can definitely do that as well. Can you throw all the points up? Can you throw up all the points as a list? Let's see. I don't have them listed out as a list like that, but let's see. Maybe I can actually share a file with you, and I'll just share with you this list. So give me just a quick second here. As I'm doing this, if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in there. And I'm going to render a PDF file real quick. And inside of this new webinar platform, I can share a file with you directly through this platform, so you can get access to this PDF. So it'll allow you to have immediate access to the list of the PowerPoint slides, so you can download them directly into this platform. So let me see if I can throw them up here real quick. Oh, there we go. Give me just a second. Uploading now. We'll see if it actually works. Preview. All right, so you should be able to see inside. If you look under file sharing, there should be a link there to the download that I just posted. So hopefully you guys can see that. Give me a yes or a thumbs up if you find that download. It should be there now, so you should be able to download it under file sharing. So a question here: how effective is bringing deals to investors for a commission on the NOI for starting out? I'm not really sure the question. How effective is bringing deals to investors for a commission on the NOI? The NOI won't be affected when you're bringing a deal to an investor. That's completely separated as far as a commission. So, Sebastian, if you can clarify that a little bit, that would be helpful, because commissions on selling deals or wholesaling deals does not affect the NOI on a particular project. So, not sure if maybe I'm just misunderstanding that question, but if you can change that, would be great. Let's see. Oh, so one of the questions that I see here was, how often are you following up with brokers? Garrett, we're actually following up with brokers at least once a week. We want to make sure we're always in touch with them. Obviously, if it's a broker that's not putting out a lot of deals, then we might do once every other week or once every month or something like that. But we want to make sure that the ones that are active and they're putting out deals all the time, that we're reaching out to them, all the time. So, make sure you do that. Yeah. So, the question here, Garrett, is if the broker doesn't have any listings that you can talk about, how can you still follow up regularly with value without nagging them? I think one of the biggest things is just, I would rather be, somebody who's always, talking to them and reaching out to them. And, maybe you have a deal that you're working on and you want to bounce an idea off of them or whatever. Those are still reasons that you can reach out to them and talk with them. And by the way, you can also talk about, prior deals that they've done. Hey, how's that deal doing? Or, I know that deal got locked up by somebody else and I didn't win the bid. What's the status of that? We've actually had deals come back our way because we followed up with brokers about prior deals. So you can definitely do that as well. What was the website you mentioned for finding deals? I think you said 10 something. Yeah, it's 10x.com. So TEN hyphen x.com. So if you just go to Google, you can just type in 10x auctions, TENX auctions.com. And there's a website there as well that you can find. Skylar has a question here. It says, quote, new delivery should prove to push vacancy higher, but also help to support effective rent growth for the region. What does deliveries means? Deliveries are when you have new construction or new development coming in the area. A new delivery would be those new units coming online for them to do lease ups, primarily in those Class A apartments. Those would be those new deliveries. Josh put out there the website. Thank you so much, Josh, for that. How effective is bringing deals to investors? Let's see here. I found a bigger pockets. You can make keywords for forums. Yes, that's correct. And every time a forum has that word in it, the title, the body, it will pop up on your bigger pockets dashboard. Very good source to connect with people who have completed deals or who are actively searching for deals. Good point there, Dakari. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Let's see. Let's see, where's the PDF file? So the PDF file should be on there should be a little drop down there. So there should be a download option there for the PDF. I don't actually know what it looks like that you guys are looking at, but on the right-hand side where I actually see the chat box, to the left of that chat box is a blue bar. And next to the blue bar, it says, there's a little section there that says file sharing. And so I'm assuming it shows up there. Actually, here, let's do this. There we go. Now it's available. I forgot to click the button. So there's a button there that says share file. So now you should be able to see that file and be able to download it. So try to go ahead and do that now and give me a yes if you can see it. So how do you target the right brokers, considering a lot of them sell off market? I would disagree with you, Dave, that most brokers do not sell off market. Most brokers are selling on market deals, and it's because on market deals typically drive the highest value for their sellers. And so when you say the right brokers, it really depends on what size asset class you're looking at. And so most of your deals are going to be sold on market. Now, they might tell you it's off market or whatever, but if you get a mass email from a broker, that's technically on market. They've sent it out to their entire list of 2,000 people. Now, it's not necessarily on Loopnet or the MLS or anything like that, but it's still on market. They still have their entire database that's aware of that particular asset that's being sold. Let's see. So, Sebastian, the clarification there was 5% for a 5% deal, like 5% commission on the NOI until sold. I'm not really sure what the question is. It just seems kind of confusing. I have never heard of how effective is bringing deals to investors for a commission on the NOI for starting out. I've never heard of that, so it sounds kind of odd. And if you've heard of something like that before, I'd be interested to kind of hearing some more. But I'm not really sure what that is. So I do apologize that I can't answer that question for you there, Sebastian. I've never heard of a commission based on the NOI. All right. So, good. I'm glad you guys were able to find the download. It should have popped up there for you to be able to download. For those of you who might be watching this after or on the replay, if you shoot me an email, Dan@multifamilyinvestornation.com, I'll be glad to just reply to that email and give you an attachment with this list if that would be helpful for you. You can also go back and watch this and listen to this as many times as you want as well. Let's see here. I didn't catch the details on strategy involving an assignment. Can you please repeat that? So, Paul, basically, when you're working with property managers, they always have connections with the people who are owning these various properties and these various assets. And so as far as the assignment is concerned, these property management companies, when they kind of have an idea as to when these assets will be sold or turned over. And so, some property managers can go to these owners and say, hey, well, let me go ahead and acquire your property for, say, $5 million, and they negotiate a price with them and they lock that up with an LOI, that letter of intent, and that letter of intent can be now assigned to a different buyer. And so those property management companies will have people that they know that are currently looking in the market to buy. They've already negotiated the price. There's no negotiating with the price. It's, hey, here's the contract, the LOI. I'm going to assign it to you, and we're going to negotiate a fee that I'll get upon closing of that deal for assigning that contract. That's kind of what that's for, in regards to that. Let's see here. So Dave's asking, what was your first deal like? We're not really talking about deals right now as far as this is concerned, Dave. But I'd be glad to jump on another webinar or maybe come up with a different webinar about some of the first deals and stuff like that. So good question, but not the right venue here. As a real estate broker, can you get a listing fee from the buyer and an acquisition fee from the buyer? I guess you could try to negotiate that, but as a real estate broker, can you get a listing fee from the buyer and an acquisition fee? Well, I'm not really sure how you would do that as a real estate broker in the multifamily space, because you're going to usually either get one or the other. But usually that's being given to you from the seller. Okay, he clarified that. All right. As a real estate broker, can you get a listing fee from the seller and an acquisition fee from the buyer? Well, the acquisition fee is really, it might be the kind of the wrong terminology for it. If you're on the GP side of that deal, you might be able to do that. But as far as negotiating different fees, I think you would probably have a hard time doing that. You could ask for it, but most likely you might not get it. If you already have like a 3 to 4 to maybe 6%, commission that the seller is providing to you, and then you try to negotiate another 6% from the buyer for an acquisition or a percentage or whatever, I think you're going to probably find a hard time doing that because you're kind of double dipping in that particular space. So I have not seen any deals that have done that, but definitely one of those things. Do you have references to learn the language of multifamily housing while dealing with brokers? I'm a beginner. Yes, Danielle, if you will go to not our podcast, but if you will go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there, we have a playlist there about multifamily terminology. And right now it's not very built out, not very fleshed out, but we already have some videos that we've shot and that we'll be releasing some terminology as it relates to multifamily housing, so that you can start to become a little bit more educated and talking a little bit more about the language of multifamily. And one of the other most important things you can do is be a part of these webinars every week and start to immerse yourself in this conversation around multifamily. All right. Well, it doesn't look like I have any more questions. Thank you guys for joining us here today. I'm very glad to have used the new platform, the new webinar platform. It seems like it worked out pretty well. So how do you guys like the new platform? Did you guys enjoy it? Say yes, no, didn't like it, prefer Zoom, whatever. Let me know what you guys thought about it. We'll be doing it where we do weekly webinars. So these webinars will be posted like we normally do. And so make sure you stay attached to our email list. That's usually how we send them out. And it looks like everybody. Oh, good. I can edit my comment. Good. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying the new platform. It seems fairly user friendly, and it's actually a nice platform for being able to do the file sharing like I did. There's a place in here where I can actually play some videos later on if I want to. I also have an option to do some polling, and this slide presentation is actually uploaded to their platform, and they've run the screen sharing. I mean, I'm not even doing a screen share. They're just running my PowerPoint on the back end. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and look forward to seeing you guys next week on the next Multifamily Investor Nation webinar.